Hello, it's the Anfield Wrap. I'm Gareth Roberts, and today I'm joined by Melissa Reddy, Rob Gutmann, Jay McKenna, and Ian Salmon. Straight in then, opening question. Ollie Juliuson has asked, Mel, what's the worst footballer you know that everyone else seems to rate?
Very, very interesting one. Geez, that's a tough one to think of.
Who you hang on, run that by me again. Who we think's rubbish?
Worst footballer that you know that everyone else seems to rate. So you think the shite, everyone else thinks the boss.
Just the other way around's the easier question. I know loads of players that people think are shit that I like.
Everyone.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Go on, Mel. Sorry.
Can't really. Does anyone else have any one that they can think of?
Go on, I'll go with one.
Go on.
Unless he is only specifically asking Mel, in which case it's...
No, it's for everyone. I was just starting with Mel.
Save me.
Mel, which footballer?
No. Go on.
Not so much now, because I've warned him over the last 2 years, which might be a bit late, but Zlatan. For years, I was convinced Zlatan couldn't hit the side of a barn from 3 yards. And then all of a sudden, he's scoring wonder goals all over the place. It might just be my ignorance, but for ages, I'm like, now, do you know what? Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a bit shit. Against all the odds, and Mel's scowling at me on this one.
No, I'm just thinking what Zlatan would say if he was sat next to you and had a response to that.
I think he's just punched me.
Yeah. Well, he plays for the Manx now, so I think it's
so I can hate him again.
Yeah, bring out a samurai sword and cut your head off in one swoop.
I can't understand.
And then probably lick my blood from it.
Yes.
I can't understand anyone who's got a nice word to say for Neil Ruddock, so that can count as my answer.
No one rates.
Does anyone have a nice word for
No,
Neil Ruddock?
people are always a decent passer of the ball, and he scored that goal against the Manx when we drew 3-3, and I'm like, so what? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. They find something nice to say about him, where I've got nothing but bad things to say about him. But, I don't want to get in trouble in that. Rob?
I got to thinking about current footballers. And the nature of this question is, I'm going to be wrong here, right? As Ian is wrong about Zlatan. The one at the moment I want to believe that I'm right and they're all wrong about is Paul Pogba, because he just looks a bit of a cart horse.
You think he's grim?
Yeah, I want to think he's grim.
Last night.
And he's not been good in this tournament, and that's my first real close-up apart from seeing highlights of him. So I'm hoping he's the Emperor's new clothes as Paul Pogba. I'm sure I'm going to be badly wrong about him, but yeah, he's my choice.
He has fantastic moments.
Does he?
100 million quid moments.
Do you know what? I'd pay 100 million quid just to annoy the Manx. I think I'd do that. Just, spend the seat money on buying Paul Pogba.
I'd have him.
Don't be spoiling the show. Jay?
More people might have got onto this in the summer, but I reckon Joe Hart.
Joe Hart, yeah.
It's a good
show.
shout.
Yeah.
Very good show.
All right, then, well, let's get stuck
Melissa
into
the... Melissa's?
Oh, yeah. I want that. You swerved it, haven't you?
The only
She wasn't even
player...
going to say that.
And this is not... based, Euros aside, but the only player that keeps popping into my mind, and to be fair, my mind's pretty brain dead because I feel like I've not slept all weekend, but is Nani. There was so much hype when he was at United. I remember when they originally signed him and everyone was saying he's got or people were backing him to be better than Ronaldo eventually. Obviously, definitely not the case, and he had a decent enough Euros, but I just never saw what people saw in him or where all the hype came from.
I'm changing Joe Hart for Theo Walcott.
Okay.
I'm changing Pogba for the Stone Roses.
Oh, no, that's contentious. I'm not having that one at all. That's wrong with Zlatan.
It's an easier question.
End the podcast. Right,
boys.
okay, so jib all that. Let's talk about stuff that's been happening there. There's plenty to get stuck into. The manager signed a new 6-year contract, which would, if he sees it out, make him the longest serving manager since Bob Paisley. The Reds are playing football again. There's more outs imminent, it seems, from Anfield, and there's some fan fury regarding an off-the-pitch decision again. So, Sam, let's start with Jurgen Klopp then. It has been covered in other shows, but this is the free one, and it's a different panel. And why not, is my thoughts on it. So, Mel, start with you. Your feelings on the decision to give Jurgen 6 years. There's some criticism out there that it's unnecessary 9 months in, that it sends out the wrong message, that it's a smokescreen for a lack of ambition, so on and so forth. You've read the piece that I'm referring to, no doubt. What do you think?
I don't know how it can be a lack of ambition to secure the long-term future of one of the best managers in the game at the moment, a manager who turned down Real Madrid before he accepted the Liverpool job, a manager who a lot of national associations, I figure, would be looking at after the Euros as, you know, on high up on their list of candidates because of who he is, what he is, and the kind of vision and strategy that he aligns with. He's actually previously said, I think it was around March, where he said, you know, he did 7 years at Mainz, 7 years at Dortmund, and he'd like 7 years at Liverpool because that's what he does. He's not in it for short-termism. He's not thinking, I'll win the title, you know, next season and that's it, yeah. Then I can, you know, it doesn't matter what the condition state of the club is, I can just get on with life because I've delivered short-term success. He looks at every detail of the club. You know, we've seen him talk about the academy situation. He'd like all the players based in the same sort of complex. Even when he took over the job, you heard him say, you know, I'm not a dream man. I don't want the Ronaldos and Messis. I'm here to build a team, to do things the Liverpool way, like the club have always done, to do it our way, considering all the money that's floating about and stuff. In his first few days as well, speaking about the loan situation, there's so much that Jurgen Klopp has shown to signify why that was the right move. I think, you know, there's being contrarian and then there's just ignoring so much evidence that's been put forward, and there's some people saying he hasn't proven anything to get a 6-year deal. I'm sorry, but have people forgotten where Liverpool started last season? Have they forgotten how 2014-15 ended? Then the toxicity that was at the club at the start of last campaign, and how the players that people never rated made it to 2 finals, the atmosphere that returned, some of the wins last season, despite an unprecedented injury crisis that robbed the club of their best players at so many parts of the season. It's just mind-boggling. It is a smart move. It's a move for stability, and I think he's a manager that unites. And I think if you've got all this, if he's ticking all the boxes, if his vision and the club's vision align, why not?
It's interesting on 2 levels. One is it shows enormous, I don't care what anybody says, enormous ambition by the club, in as much because there's a huge financial commitment. Mel, I'm going to guess he's been paid something, I don't know if you know for sure, but something in the order of £7 million a year, not far off that.
His original contract that he signed 9 months ago was around 7 million, which makes him the 4th best paid manager in the Premier League behind, well, it would be now Guardiola, Mourinho, Wenger, and then it's him. But
has he seen an increase in his money or just length?
No, there won't be much change financially. Okay. The financial matters didn't come into play at all. It's not like he was unhappy with the terms. The owners just thought, you know what, everything makes sense here.
Okay, so I'm just doing some quick maths. So 7 million times 6 is 42 million. He's also given the same deal to Buvac and Kravitz. So the club have now committed to best part of £50 million investment in this manager. That's a hell of a statement, and it's a lot of money to be putting into a manager in this day and age. I think whilst I'm very, very happy because I'm a massive fan of Jurgen's, I think the idea of tying him down is brilliant. I am still asking myself, why now? And the reasons for doing it were the same on day one as they are now, quite frankly, because he was a massive coup on day one. I think the first season is almost, you can let it slide, whether it finished with 2 trophies and 6th place or 8th and 2 finals, doesn't really matter. This was always going to be a project. He had to build his own team. So the first, it's almost not relevant, I think. I take your point, Mel, you're right to build mitigation into anybody who wants to say that was a bad first season for Jurgen. I don't think you can count it as that. So you got to go, that deal could have been offered day one as now. So what's changed? They needed, normally if any employee gets a better deal, They're either being rewarded for it's because there's actually a fear they could lose that employee. That tends to be the way the workplace works. People pay people more. I'd love to think it was for beneficent reasons. So, they tend to do it because they're scared that employee might leave, and that makes me think: what anxieties had they suddenly got about Jurgen? Had he registered some level of unhappiness?
Maybe not. Maybe they just, as Melissa says, he's made he's had a significant impact on Liverpool
Culturally,
on and off the pitch. There is a danger, that if he wasn't being backed, they might think, hang on, that can still, is he going to get his head turned by somebody else if that comes along? You're right that he'll be rewarded for the fear of losing him as much as for what he's done, but I can understand trying to look at this objectively. I can understand maybe some of the questions people have asked about the deal. I support it. Of course I want him to stay Liverpool manager for as long as possible because I don't see who else comes in next anyway. And I think that's maybe why Liverpool have maybe made this decision, because where we're at as a club, where we've been at in the last 5-10 years, this is chips in. They've put everything in on Jurgen Klopp, because if it didn't work out for Jurgen Klopp, if in 2-3 years he'd got us really close, but we struggled to make that next step up for whatever reason. I doubt for his failings, but if we struggle to make that next step up for whatever reason, it'd be very difficult to see where Liverpool goes next. If we didn't break into the top 4 regularly, if we weren't winning things, it'd be hard to imagine who would be the next manager. Maybe another up-and-coming manager, but if you think of elite-level managers, we were all very, very surprised that we went from Brendan Rodgers to Jurgen Klopp. We were all probably very grateful as well. That we had that opportunity to do that. It'd be hard, it's easy to say this now, and I'm sure if it happened in 3 years' time, there'll be a great manager and someone will play this podcast back to me or tweet me and tell me I was wrong. But, it's hard to imagine where they go. And I think for FSG, it's the right statement of intent. I think some people are asking questions about the contract, though, in terms of it being a statement of intent, which it undoubtedly is, because they want to see other statements of intent. The statement of intent can't and shouldn't just be the manager. I think probably wrongly, but we know this happens in football now. Happens a lot more at Liverpool for some very obvious reasons, and supporters seem to have a very loud voice on many issues now, particularly on social media. People are going to be asking, well, why have you announced this now? Why, isn't this the kind of thing maybe that you'd announce the end of the summer after a good period of business? Is this to say to people, well, can they always point back at this and say, well, we did give you Jurgen Klopp. As we've seen in the past when Liverpool haven't signed players, Perslow used to come out, didn't he, and say, well, we've given contract extensions to X, Y, Z, and people are like, well, we expect that. That's the given. That's the day-to-day. That's the bread and butter we expect from the club. But similarly, I suppose, if they had announced it on the 31st of August and we hadn't had a great, transfer window, people would be saying they were using it to cover something up. I think it's the nature of trying to have some of this rational and legitimate debate, I suppose, now around football. People are asking questions and they're instantly dismissed as, somehow hating FSG or, believing they're covering something up. And if you buy into it and think it's the greatest thing, or you think it's great, people somehow think, you're an FSG apologist and, you somehow love everything they do and they can do no wrong. I think it's good. It makes very, very wise sense for Jurgen Klopp, because if it all goes wrong, he's getting a 6-year payout. Happy days. He's clearly got a time now to implement his own ideas. A lot of managers get 3 years, and that isn't enough. As Melissa says, the Ancelottis and that of the world probably want that because they want to come in, win a few things. They don't want to be there for what will be a longer term rebuilding. But this maybe gives Klopp the space to do that. Maybe he's had, Rob saying, what's the reason? Maybe Klopp's gone to them and said, well, yeah, I can sign 3 or 4 players, but the structure of maybe wages or the structure of the way the club's run or the ambition we have, a player's not seeing that. I need a bit longer to bring in, the next level down players, the Zelinskis and stuff like that, and develop them into something else. Maybe he's saying it's going to take me 5 years and it's without him coming out and saying, like Benitez did, a 5-year plan and being held to that, much like Julio was as well. Can
I ask you a question here before Ian answers the question, Gareth? Does anyone know?
You haven't waited for an answer there, but
no, I know. I'm just waiting. I know. Jeez, time is short. Sorry, Jay.
Come on.
Okay. The point is this: if Klopp did jump ship in a year's time with 5 years left on his deal for Real Madrid, what compo would Liverpool FC get? Do we get paid something equivalent to what's left in his contract? Is that what I'm saying? Is there something in this for Liverpool in that it disincentivises him to jump ship because somebody else is going to have to pay big money?
No.
Does anyone know this?
There'll be clauses all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, this could be a big thing.
Compensation is normal. If he were to get poached, you'd have to pay compensation. But I think we're trying now, actively, all of us are trying to poke holes in this and see what we can find. And that's, I think, when you're stretching like that, that's when you know something is actually
I'm not,
thing.
to be fair.
Yeah, but...
I said it was boss on our site.
I just want to say...
That's a good point in there, because I reckon if this was a year ago and it was Brendan Rodgers getting a deal, we'd be poking holes, asking questions, and we'd probably be finding holes. Whereas we're genuinely, I think it's good to have an important debate on this and just talk about it as you would a football fan, saying, oh, it's mad giving him 6 years, innit? And some people will say, I'd like to just give him 3, I'd have left him as he was, I want to see him win things. But no one could really find a significant fault in the idea of Jurgen Klopp being manager, which is a positive.
Ian, what I was going to ask you was, I wanted to pull out a couple of things that Jay said. One is that he said it's a statement, and I think it is a statement in more ways than one. And for me, it's a statement that says, all is good, all is good between us and him. And also I think it's almost like a sort of an appointment in a way, in that it's saying he is now de facto leader. He is the man who oversees everything around the club. I think it's interesting, some of the reports that you saw around this deal, particularly Tony Barrett, where he says, Klopp is not all powerful, but he says his influence is extending all the time, with everything from training kit design to pre-season travel plans coming under his reach. And then interesting following that after the Tranmere game, Klopp's then talking about the problem of Melwood and Kirkby being separate locations and that sort of thing. So this makes it feel like, to me, as though this is almost like a king-making deal.
Completely. This is the point where you stop using the phrase transfer committee, and there are just people referring to Jurgen now. And if this was day one and you appointed Jurgen Klopp and said, here's Jurgen Klopp, here's the manager you wanted, you all wanted this man, you didn't want anybody else, you want this man, and I'll come back to the reasons you want him in a second. You want this man, and he's on a 7-year deal. Everybody be going, yeah, sound, not a problem, love that, that's great, that's ambition. Now you've got the fact that people are looking at it and going, well, is it to hide the fact that we're not doing any transfers? You wanted this man because he takes players you've never heard of and he makes them into Aubameyang and Goethe and Mkhitaryan and whoever. He makes players that you didn't know into fantastic players. He takes players with potential and he makes them superstars. He doesn't buy superstars, he makes them superstars. And we all know that, and that's why we want him. And we come to the first transfer window and everyone's going, why haven't we bought any superstars?
Absolutely.
Amen. Are they not actually listening to what they said last summer? Here's a guy, we're not spending any money. He doesn't want to spend money. He wants to take something. He wants to build something. He wants to make something. And I've said a few times on various shows, he's quoted as saying the biggest thrill he gets is beating teams he's not supposed to beat. Right, well, United are splashing money around. They might go for Pogba for 100 million. There's a team you're not supposed to beat. City, you're not supposed to beat them. You're not supposed to beat Chelsea now because they've got Conte in charge. You're not supposed to beat Arsenal because they've bought Xhaka. Right, how am I going to beat them? That's the challenge for him. And he'll be buzzing over that challenge. He's got 6 years of that challenge now. And he'll have been here as long as he was at Mainz, as long as he was at Dortmund. He signed for the long term to build something incredible. And I can't see any negatives. I know, there is an article, I think we're all talking about the same article. It's about somebody that I like and respect. And I don't agree with a single word in it.
Tony Evans,
let's talk about Toe. I like Toe.
So do I.
Toe sound. And I respect his writing, but I think he's wrong on this one. And I'm glad he's not sitting next to me either, because that'd be scary than Zlatan.
Is there another thing here as well, whereby, and this is a lesser issue, but I wonder if this is kind of in the thinking, in that Liverpool very soon need to make another high-profile big appointment that isn't on the pitch, and that is in terms of a CEO or something similar. In that, because Ian Ayre's going sooner or later, he's going. Depending on who you listen to, how soon that'll happen. But does it now make that appointment easier as well? Like, you can go to top football administrators in the world and say, well, that bit's sorted. Klopp's there. He's sorting X. We need you to come in and sort Y. And there's not going to be a chair and manager. We're a club now with a vision. We're a club now led by a visionary. Do you want to be part of that?
I don't know how much easier it makes it, considering the fact that his contract was only going to expire in 2018 and had the option for an extra 12 months. So you would have still had Jurgen Klopp in charge when you're talking to this person about taking over, and Jurgen Klopp in charge for a considerable while, with the thinking anyway that you were going to extend. Sooner or later, Liverpool were going to offer the man an extended deal, because that is how he operates. He likes long-term projects. He always has a long-term vision, and he needs time, obviously, to implement that. But just on this, we're all trying to work out why it's come, when it's come. And, Jay, you said maybe Klopp's gone to them and said, we need to restructure things. But actually, he wasn't an active participant in this. The owners went to him and said, we think this is what we have, complete trust in you, and we want to get this over the line. And we're talking about timing. The announcement comes before the start of pre-season proper, before Liverpool play their first game in pre-season, which is a normal sort of time to announce, anything in terms of manager or squad or big moves like that. It's also, and Ian, you make a point, and this is a point I cannot stress enough, the fact that Klopp doesn't want to buy superstar players. Everyone is saying, back him in the market, back him in the market. Well, they've backed him. Liverpool have already made 4 transfers, of which he wanted all 4.
Yeah,
badly.
And we've spent 30 million on Sadio Mane.
Whom he wanted. Klopp's not settled for Mane. Klopp actively wanted Mane, and they backed him, and they went and got Mane. So this idea that it's a smokescreen because, Liverpool aren't signing Zlatan or, I don't know, somebody else, Pogba or whoever, Liverpool can't even play in that market. And if you go back to everything Klopp's said from the beginning, and I don't know why people pick and choose what they want to believe in, but, he said...
Have you not paid attention to politics in this country?
That's much more depressing than football, so I try and stay away. But he said back then, we can't swim in the same pool as United, Chelsea, Barcelona, Madrid. For all those players, we're going to do things our way. So I don't know if, like I said before, we're trying to pick holes, we're trying to find something wrong. And like you said, Jay, it's a positive, because that means inherently, actually, there's nothing staring at you and smacking you saying this is wrong.
I wonder if a vacuum. Liverpool can do 2 things, can't they? Liverpool can either talk a good game or just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And what we've found, though, and I think this is maybe where there's a vacuum and allows this kind of discussion to take place without any definitive comment on it. A football administrator or a club chairman stands there with Jurgen Klopp, does a press conference and says, he's our man. Whatever reason it's been, whether Klopp went to them or they went to Klopp, he's our man. We trusted him for 6 years. Don't just put a statement out, do the press conference, he's our man. We trusted him for 6 years. He's got a vision for this football club. We're going to support him in driving that forward. Because Liverpool haven't done that and they've just announced this, Klopp's then had to face the questions himself and has answered some of them, and journalists have clearly got bits of inside information on that. Liverpool have probably created some of that vacuum, and as we know, in the age of 24-hour news, Twitter, particularly, people are going to fill that with, well, I wonder why they've done that. And suddenly, what started as just a general question you maybe ask your mates at the match in August and September, in the time of July and June and July, when there's absolutely no football and we're trying to fill our days with something to talk about, it's left that. I think if Liverpool maybe to come out with it's the football administrator point Gareth's made, if Liverpool had someone that come out and said, well, this is our vision for the club, we're moving forward with this, maybe we wouldn't have some of this conversation. Maybe it'd be Liverpool saying, he's our man. No other reason to ask why. He's our man. We want him.
I'm cynical about this, so I'm going to keep saying this, because I think we can separate it out from it being an absolutely brilliant thing from us as supporters and the football club's point of view that we have this lad indefinitely and that we've tried to make him happy is a really good thing. But one thing we can't deny is this is not a normal situation 1 year into a managerial contract. It's not like we appointed some rookie who blew everyone away. Right, we got Eddie Owen last summer for 60 grand a week. If we finished in the top 4 and went, oh, look at him, he needs reward in here. We brought Jurgen in on top money, top 3 or 4 in the Premier League. We haven't improved his money. We've extended the deal to him, and not after a season of particular achievement. I think there's a part of Jurgen Klopp that would have probably, if this is just as it seems on paper, would be a little bit embarrassed about, why are you doing this for me? He's a decent human being. It strikes me, and this isn't to make a negative out of it, but it's just wondering. Something feels like it's been headed off at the pass here. Something feels like, oh shit, we really need to tie Jurgen down, because this Jurgen Klopp project could unravel, because maybe we're not doing the best for Jurgen. I think this is what this feels like, because and I keep saying this, it's not normal to give a new deal to 1 year in that circumstance.
If they were not doing what they could or the best for him, do you think he signs then so quickly after being offered that
I think there's
deal?
more to it, because I think
it's
the
an
reason
announcement that the change in plan is what it is to my mind. I mean, you look at when Newcastle gave 8-year deals to Pardew, to the scout car, to all the backroom staff, and the reason they gave Lambias, is that how you say his name, said at the time, that the reason he wanted to do it was because he said, if you look at the real successful clubs where there's a legacy, Arsenal, Man United, they have a long-term manager that does X, Y, and Z, and that's why they're successful. And I think what this heralds is that FSG have gone, right, forget all that committee stuff now. Forget all those previous incarnations of our plan. Our plan now is Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp is de facto top of the organisation, the boss. And I think that's what giving him 6 years does. I think that's what it says. That's what it says to me.
I think, but what's crucial there is I don't think we're disagreeing with each other. A realisation that this has got to be done another way. Yeah, it marks the point of where we're doing something another way. Not maybe they sense some unrest from Jurgen about it. Maybe they've just reached the conclusion all on their own. But this is a change in direction. It isn't just a hooray for Jurgen. We love Jurgen.
No,
let's cuddle him.
It's a move.
And I know we don't actually. I don't know, Mel. You'd know better than anyone around this table what he's clearly been promised stuff, hasn't he, which goes far beyond, which isn't about money and isn't duration of contract.
Well, just to move this on, do you not think it's interesting, or do you just think it's pure coincidence? I'm intrigued to hear what you all say, that he brings up the Melwood Kirby thing in a throwaway comment after a no-mark pre-season friendly. It feels to me like this is one of the things you're on about. Yeah. That he's like, I want that sorting, so I'm now going to drop that into the public domain as a thing. I don't
reckon Jurgen Klopp's stupid enough to make throwaway comments that might come back and bite him on the backside. I reckon he knows what he's saying.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
And also that comment was in a wider part of why, 6 year a 6-year deal. Why? And he was saying, well. And this is the point to Jurgen, and if you speak to people from Mainz and people from Dortmund, they'll say the exact same thing. Jurgen Klopp doesn't walk into a club looking for the quick fix, just to win something quickly and then go away. Jurgen Klopp looks at a club holistically and how he can, when he leaves, everything must be in a better position than when he came, every single aspect of the club. And even if you look at his time at Dortmund with the academy there and promoting players like Guts, giving them a chance nice and early. That's what he does. And the Melwood Academy thing was a wider point that he made very early on in the job, where he said he didn't understand why the club were loaning out so many players. And obviously, now that he's been in England for 9 months and seen, sometimes you actually have to send them out because there's no proper leagues below that they can get, good experience. It's another thing, though. Why didn't they give him the 6-year deal from the get-go or the 7-year deal from the get-go? You needed time for him to learn what everything's about. They needed time to see what he's all about. And the owners feel that he very much is the person to implement. Because all the things Jurgen's saying, let's, take potential and we can work with potential and we can make players so much better and stuff. Let's be honest, FSG have been saying that from day. It is what they thought of doing as well, because they know if you're going to fight might with might and money, you're not going to have the means to overpower United, Man City and stuff. You have to do it in a smarter way. And everything they've talked about doing and everything they've wanted to do, here's a man who can do it, who wants to do it, who inherently believes that this club can be successful if everything's done the right way and not the shortcut way.
There's other little interesting bits and bobs around, I think, that suggest that slightly different ways of doing things. So, like we all know, when he first came in, he thought it was mad that we had 17 players out on loan, and he recalled the majority of them back to have a look at them. He said he didn't want to really work that way. Now, like you say, Mel, he's had a look, he's seen how it works. You can see that the under-21 league, for instance, is an absolute joke in comparison to Germany. So it's interesting that just reading between the lines on reports here and there, things like I said, like that. You'll obviously still have to let people go out on loan when it comes to the crunch, but there's little things that say, but he wants the right club now. So people are going to go and visit the club that these lads are going to go to, and they want to see that they play football in a similar way. They want to see that they train in a similar way. And like, it's interesting today, for instance, it's only Danny Ward, and he's only a goalie and all the rest of it, but he signed a brand new deal, and then at the same time they said, but he's going to Huddersfield on loan, where of course Wagner is, who's Klopp's mate, so you'll know how he trains, and just little detail like that feels quite good to me. Because, for instance, let's destroy the Hodge one more time. He never ever went to the academy. He never bothered his arse to go down there, despite it being such a key part of the club. But anyway, that's just me ranting again. Tranmere, I did want to touch briefly on Tranmere, just to say that we did cover this in more depth on The Pink, which is the subscription show around post-match of all Liverpool games, including pre-season. We're going to be doing that for all the games as we go through the summer, so that's Fleetwood, that's Wigan, Huddersfield, Chelsea, AC Milan, Roma, Barcelona and Mainz. We'll do something after every single show, so if you don't subscribe already, maybe worth you doing so. Rob, me and you went down.
Yep.
It was an enjoyable night. We took the kids down, all the rest of it. Two different teams over the 90 minutes. Don't really want to get into too much detail, like I say, because we did it on The Pink, but just thought we could do some wider, bigger points. So let's start with the simple one. It was nice to see a team in red called Liverpool playing on grass again.
Yeah, it was a real treat, wasn't it? And it's a lovely little away Tranmere, actually. It makes me long for them being. I know we've never been in the same league as them in my lifetime, whatever. But you used to have regular pre-seasons against them, and it was nice to be there. It's a good ground. If anyone wants to get down there and watch Tranmere, just because they're a local team, they should do so. It was interesting because we saw in the first half something of a first. I think it was the best 11. I think he felt he could pick at that moment. So you got some insights into the way he was thinking for the new season. Not a lot happened in the game. Let's be right. The lads have only been back in training 4 or 5 days properly. I think that interested me most was watching Karius, who had all but nothing to do, but his starting position at every junction. Yeah, every time we watched him,
nearly on the halfway line.
Yeah, my little boy, 7 years old, next to me, just Miles of Babe situation, just said, "Dad, what's he doing there? That's a goalkeeper. What's he doing there?" And he was, as Gareth said, he was 10 yards, 15 yards short of the halfway line at times. Mm-hmm. Every time that was his starting position. I mean, thank God Luis Suarez isn't in the league, because there'd be a few gems if he was playing against us. But now he was fascinating to watch. Mane was lively without doing enough to make anybody sit up. Bobby Firmino was probably the pick of our bunch. And other than that, I don't think we were meant to learn very much. Jurgen's been quite clear that he's not out to win games from these exercises, but it was just nice to see the Reds again, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, one of the things I want to ask you about, I mean, two of the younger lads that played in that game, that played, decent enough. Do you think it's a bit mad that people straight away have gone to the default setting of saying, wow, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Ejaria, brilliant, he's Pogba and he's the new Gerrard and blah, blah, and it's instantly gone from like 0 to 60 on both these players and the 17 and 18 years old.
Well, I can say this as someone who didn't watch the match because I was at a wedding. If I went off what I'd seen on Twitter and videos since, then we don't need to sign any players because we've got them all and it's going to be great, and there's absolutely nothing to worry about because we beat the mighty Tranmere in a pre-season friendly when they weren't even playing their proper team. But again, it's strange, isn't it? It's this vacuum that gets filled. People, the desire to show touches by, there's videos and some of them, really good. It's not a criticism of any of the ones who do it, but have these videos shows all their touches in the match. And it's like, yeah, what about the one where like you let the fella run past him and you banged it into the top corner? Where's the video of that clip? Because that's, that one touch pass wasn't, no one near him or something like that. It's scary that. And it must be so hard for these players. We place all this emphasis on them. If they haven't broke through by a certain age. One of the things that had a conversation recently with a mate about the Euros, for example. Vardy and Payet are both examples of players who don't make that big leap, you know, this big announcement onto the world stage at a young age. But, you know, they reach a certain level, and maybe later on in their career, they'll peak like Payet did, you know. Would you say now we should have, you mentioned Alexander-Arnold over Payet? Would people really say that? Because, you know, if the same age, people would be saying, Alexander-Arnold's better than his age. It's absolutely no barometer. You know, there's still a long way to go for these players in terms of development. It's good that they get in a game, but what'll happen, and this is where we create again a rod for our own back. Liverpool might start the season a bit poor, or we sell a big name player. You know, and this happened with Jordan Ibe. We sell a big name player and still, it's all right, we've got Jordan Ibe. Yeah, that's not that. Just because he's the next young player, or the other thing that similar doesn't mean he's he's going to be the same.
The other thing that happens is that you see them play at a certain level, because also, like every game now is on the telly one way or another, or like you say, you see videos on Twitter and so on. And you almost get the man. Like I just had a flashback as you was talking to when Raheem Sterling finally made his long-awaited debut, as it was called, for the first team. And there was people like standing up, applauding this young kid running onto the pitch, and I was stood there going, "This is mad. He's never played for the first team," and you're basically like cheering him onto the pitch like he's going to destroy the opposition, score an hat-trick, you know, win the league on his own. And it's like, I just think the pressure. And not always the club's fault. Just the pressure on young footballers is mad. And this is another example.
Adam Morgan, Jordan Roster. You know, we have this desire for a young Scouse lad to come through and stuff like that, and we put this pressure on. They're just not going to make it. How many players from, never mind Liverpool, any club's youth team, make it at their own team eventually? They'll find a career elsewhere. Loads of them will drop out, but how many of them make it? You know, you can't name many. You'd have some youth teams, now and again. West Ham's, for example, is quite famed, isn't it, for the amount they had coming through. But that's a one-off, and even then, it wasn't all of them. You know, Liverpool's youth team from 2007. You know, a few of them have made a career in football elsewhere, but not many. You know, have really have stepped up from where people expected them. And we do place this big emphasis. You know, it's pre-season. I wouldn't even judge anything on how any of the first team players played in it.
I mean, in that game, you could see that like people weren't putting tackles in, and it was slightly, it was not the pace that you would normally expect. And I mean, just to move it on to someone that you do expect to be in and around the first team picture. I mean, a game with the caveat, it's Tranmere, it's the first game back, all that. Danny Ings did well though, and it was nice to see him score. It was nice to see him be involved after 9 months out, and he looked sharp.
Literally all I've seen of this game is the goal.
Well, there you go.
I
came to you for the right question.
That's all I need. It's a fantastic thing. The assist was Trent Alexander-Arnold.
It was indeed.
It's a lovely run. It's a lovely assist. The finish is excellent. It's what you want to see him do. You want to see him do it all next season. It's a good start. It's nice to see him fit. On the Alexander-Arnold question, I remember last August when we were sitting in the first set of shows after the opening pre-season friendlies, and we were talking about this kid that nobody had ever seen play before, and he was the pick of the bunch on the field, and his name was Trent Alexander-Arnold. And then we didn't see him again all season. So it's unfair for people to be putting this expectation on him. There's suddenly going to be this revelation. And Ovie Ejaria, my main thing with Ovie Ejaria was when I looked at the team sheets, I was like, I genuinely, and this is me, this reflection on me, I genuinely have no idea who this lad is. I've never even heard him mentioned before.
Can I
we got him from Arsenal. He's the new Paul Pogba.
Can I chime in? Because Gibbo and I watch the under-18s and under-21s and do a show on the our subscription element.
I should probably listen to
it. It's a good show. It's a good show. But Ejaria, as Gareth said, we bought him from Arsenal, I think, at about the age of 15. He's a front 3, front 4 player, and he's lively, but neither him or Alexander showed nearly enough for anyone to think they're getting near the first team this season. Trent Alexander-Arnold, just from academy sort of inside information, because anyone watching the academy will know this, is probably the all but the biggest prospect there is there, but there's still some considerable way to go from Jordan Roster was the biggest prospect there was at the academy, and so there's a million miles to go. Yeah, so I think anyone trying to get a highlights reel out of the performance of those two lads is doing them a disservice, and also entirely misleading fans, because they aren't hitting the first team this season.
All right, so that's that. Sorry, go on, Mel.
For me, and I agree with the comments. Youngsters, it's nice to see them have a run out really good when they do turn in a positive performance, but creating expectations that are so far beyond where they currently are is
unfair,
hugely unfair on them. But in terms of the first team, I thought the most encouraging signs were the link-up play between Firmino and Mane.
Yeah.
In fact, Liverpool were practicing their build-up play in the warm-up, and you could already see then, and I remember turning to the lads and saying, Mane and Firmino really look like they're on the same wavelength. They're like, wait for the match to start before you get excited. But you could see their understanding of where the other one is going to be. I found that interesting. And then obviously Danny Ings will play a pre-season friendly like he would a cup final. He always goes full tilt. I thought he looked the sharpest. He was the most impressive. Looks the closest to being
fittest.
The fittest. And that's no surprise as well, because he's come in early and done a lot of work before before everyone reported back to Melwood.
He's been swimming and jumping over boxes. He made a video of it.
Yeah. So I think those are the kind of things you can, read a little bit into and pick out. But otherwise, it is just a workout, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's Tranmere then. What I wanted to get into as well is that an interesting comment from Klopp post-match, another one, was that he said, we have 38 players at the club, and that is 100% too much. I don't think by that he thinks we should have none. So I'm taking it to mean that he thinks we've got too many kids on the books, basically.
Double, I think he's implying.
Yeah.
I think all he's implying is that's definitely, I think when he's saying 100%, it's just translating from German into English. That's definitely too many. You're 100% right, rather than saying we've got this specific amount too many.
But I mean, if we do read into it for the sake of the show, at least, after just telling people in the previous topic not to read into things, but if you look at who didn't play and who wasn't even there and that sort of thing, so Benteke, Ibe, Alberto, and of course Balotelli, who seems to have dropped a bit of a line out there about Balotelli that best for both parties, that ends. So that ends all that talk, because Rob, you were trying to get me to talk about Balotelli last week, and I was saying,
I was desperate, man.
No, mate. So I think we can sort of, all that team's pretty sorted. Kolo Touré, Enrique, Sinclair and Ross are already gone. 4 in. Fulton's gone to Chesterfield, Danny Ward, Huddersfield. So that's pretty much where we are so far. I just wanted to ask you all what you see happening. I mean, Rob, you said you're taking it to mean he thinks he wants sort of 19-ish around the club then. So
I do.
What do you think happens?
I think the interesting, if we're talking about individuals for a sec, the interesting omission, unless there's a reason I don't know about, was Luis Alberto.
Yeah.
And equally interesting is that Markovic wasn't omitted. You could have said, okay, one was a more expensive signing than the other, but they both went out of loan season. If anything, Luis Alberto had the better loan season for one reason or another. So you might have expected either both to be in or both to be out. So he's clearly looked at one and goes, okay, there's a chance there, and looked at the other and go, no, I don't want you. Size of the squad thing, I think he's looking at around the 2022 player mark. I think that's clear. Without European football, I think
there's a dilemma there, though, isn't there? And that's what I was trying to get out here. Really, was that this under 21 league, it doesn't work, does it? You do that show with Gibbo, and there's there'll be 2 games one week and then none for a month, and I don't think that's really on. I don't think everyone's up to speed about how sort of bad it is, really. I mean, I've seen some comments this morning around the piece that had gone up on the Echo, and people were saying, well, just keep them here and get them to win the under-21s league, and then, they'll have this winning mentality. And it's like, well, if you watch that league, it's dead half-arsed. And they can't even organise regular fixtures around it. I mean, it's like, in Germany, the under-23 team playing something like the 3rd division or the 3rd tier. So it's proper competitive football. Obviously, Klopp's learned pretty quickly that the under-21 league doesn't offer that. So what does he do with all these players? He can't get rid of all of them. And then there must be some that he thinks, well, I wouldn't mind having them around, but what developments are they getting to sticking around here? The
dilemma you've got is, John and I watching the under-21 league last year, and John did a couple of interviews with the academy staff, and one thing they kept coming back is that they could never put out the same team 2 weeks running, or it was hugely disrupted selection because of the loan system as much as anything. I don't think they were complaining about it, but just saying that was a fact of life. But what it means is that under-21 team isn't a team. It's just who they can promote from the under-18s this week, who's injured maybe from the first team and needs a game, who's come back from a loan. So you kind of think, well, Okay, put them all out on loan, then you don't need the under-21 league at all, or you don't need the under-21 team. It's a massive question in youth football, and it doesn't just affect us, it affects all clubs. And I don't know how you resolve it.
You stop them hoovering up all the players. That's how you do it.
I agree with
let
that.
Them, let them go and play football at another level.
Yeah.
And find their way up. They will do that. They're going to go and play for them clubs anyway. And the solution, and this is a bugbear of mine because it's happened again now. The solution is this, English Football League trophy that's replacing the Johnstone's Paint Trophy with 16 Premier League clubs or 15 Premier League clubs and Newcastle being invited to it, which has caused a big issue, particularly among supporters in the lower leagues. This idea, and it's one I think Scudamore and others at the Premier League are pushing, particularly Richard Scudamore, for legacy purposes, because he wants his legacy. He's done it with the ticket stuff. He wants to claim his legacy for himself about young English players being given an opportunity, developing the next generation. They're going to play in a Johnson's Paint Trophy. They're going to play about half a dozen games. They'll probably play that in their own club's League Cup games. There's much like the under-21 leagues, as Robbo's just said there. They're going to play half a dozen games. Here and there, that's going to be disrupted because they're still going to go out on loan because their clubs would rather than be playing for Chesterfield for 20 games than playing, half a dozen for them. I think what's happened is Liverpool operate this system because everybody else does, so no other club's going to take the leap and do something different. But I think Klopp, and it made me think this with the Jordan Ibe one, certainly, he's now gone past the development of going back down to somebody else on loan. Cash in. Let's sell some of these players. Let's move them on. Let's try and maybe they play somewhere, they look okay, we can sell them on. They're in the shop window. Cash in on them. And if we need to buy players next year, then we'll have to do that. Because we've got another crop coming through. The players who are now 20, 21, 22 or in the periphery, Alberto and stuff like that, we're only sending them out on loan to get their wages off the books. We're not sending them out on loan with the idea they're going to improve and come back to us. We're getting their wages off the books in the hope that someone else might buy them as well. There's no other reason for it, because he's not going to come back. Luis Alberto isn't going to come back into the Liverpool team anytime soon by going out on loan. Same with Mario Balotelli.
I think you're right. We said this on a couple of shows on the Central League show. It's immoral, the hoarding of players by the big clubs. There was a obscene situation last year, I thought. Harry Wilson, who was a bit of an academy prospect, was sent out to Crewe on loan. He's 16, 17, very small frame, so you need a lot of growing to do. Goes to Crewe on loan and can't get a game. And you kind of think, that's nuts that and he's one of the hot shots of the academy. You go, why are we sending kids out who can't get a game down in the second or third or fourth tier? We should be buying their players. You know what I'm saying? In a roundabout way. That's what Ian Rush came from Chester. Keegan from Scunthorpe. If the wider football authorities, FIFA, UEFA, the FA, they should put a quota system ceiling going. You cannot hoard players, or you can only pay 25 players professional level senior wages. Beyond that, you cannot hold them. So maybe you can only pay 25 players more than £1,000 a week, so that any young kids wanting to come to Liverpool beyond that go, I'll tell you what, I think I'd rather go to Leyton Orient.
There's a recurring theme here. You're right about the players going out on loan. I don't know what the stats are, but certainly anecdotally looking at it from my experience, bar a couple of standouts like Jordan Ibe, a lot of these players go out on loan and they don't play every week for the teams.
Which is nuts.
Cannot do it, but a lot of them go out on loan and they don't play every week. And we've got to ask ourselves why. I think it's probably because they get used to playing a certain way, with certain quality of footballers, and they turn up at a lower league team on a crap pitch. It's more physical. It's a different way of playing football. The opponents are very different than what they used to. They don't know what to do. It's why the same way Premier League teams struggle in cup games against lower league opposition, because they can play completely different. And eventually the quality shines through. A young lad going to Crewe, Harry Wilson, someone like that. You're right. He's everyone's raved about him. He goes there and he struggles. Now, what does that do for his development? He doesn't come back to Liverpool and think,
pointless.
Learnt loads there, lads. Because I don't reckon sitting on the bench at Gresty Road or training with them and not getting a game has made him in any way, shape or form a better player. Maybe as a person, because he's learned what it's like to live in Crewe or something like that, but that's about it.
It's perhaps what the managers of those teams think as well. I mean, I know a fella who's a Wigan fan, and he was saying about that they had, I can't remember who it was now. They had a couple from Liverpool at some point and they never got a sniff. think it might have been Sinclair at one point, I might be wrong. But
didn't they have Ojo?
I think they might have had Ojo as well.
Ojo, yeah.
I was saying to him, how come he never really got a sniff? And he said, well, because we were in a bit of trouble at this time. And so the manager's obviously going to turn to reliable pros that he knows what he's going to get out of them, rather than a kid who's just being parachuted in from Liverpool. I mean, there's another aspect to this, isn't there, Mel, in that there's a change to the loan system now as well. In that, whereas before, you had this sort of emergency loan system, and you could go to a club for a month or so and then come back. They've now scrapped that and basically said that loan deals have to be done window to window. Yeah. That obviously that almost like wipes off another way of getting games for kids. I mean, I think Michael Beale has said in the past that a way that they fill round the fact that the under-21 league isn't good enough is the organised friendlies for the kids. But also, they do that on purpose. They'll say, you go to that club for a month, and I know, or you've at least got a chance of getting 3 or 4 games there. But now that that's gone, that's another reason why you almost need a new strategy this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when Klopp came in, his point about the loan players, he said they should be learning our way of playing. They should be ingrained in the mentality and the thinking and stuff. And I think that's why there's this intelligence now to make sure that the place you're sending a player is actually the right place for their development in terms of playing style that suits the player, but also if you think, this kid is good enough, maybe in 2 years he could actually be a Liverpool player. At least he knows the fundamentals, he knows how to counter press, he knows how to play at a high intensity football. And even looking at, you look at the Jordan Ibe Bournemouth move. I know it's not a loan deal, it's a straight sale, but you look at it and you think, Jordan, that makes good sense for you. Playing under Eddie Howe, playing his type of football, it would suit you pretty well. And I think there needs to be some intelligence like this. And I know there's clubs, Hoffenheim, who are known as sort of a development club. They will let players go to clubs that they know a player will go there and shine and develop because it suits him and stuff. And Roberto Firmino was one such example of that, where they thought, Liverpool's a good move for you, for your type of football. And I think we'll start to see more of that, where wherever these players end up, it is a good football decision for them. And it is a place where they do have an opportunity to get lots of games. Like you're saying, Gareth, it doesn't make sense to send a 17-year-old to a club that is going to be in a relegation battle, because essentially, especially if it's an exciting, attacking, dazzling player, because when a club's in a relegation scrap in the lower leagues, they don't want dazzle. They want somebody who's going to get dirty. So I think all these things will come into play. But importantly, it wasn't just the youngsters and the loanies Klopp was going on about. There's a load of senior players, and I know people keep saying, keep Joe Allen. Joe Allen's he's 26, he's not going to be a regular starter. So that's why Liverpool are saying, you've got a year left on your contract, not going to put an unreasonable price on you, go and play first team football somewhere else. And there's a lot of senior players, I think, who'll, end up having to go because they're not going to get a lot of games. And I think the outgoings will reach double figures quite easily, just because of the amount of players Liverpool have. And he's right, 38 is ridiculous when you've only got domestic fixtures. And ideally, and make no mistake, Jurgen Klopp wants to win the league with Liverpool. And, part of doing that is having a stable core that you look to play all the time. And the only thing that will get in the way of that is sort of injuries. And I think earlier on in the season, around April last season, or probably even earlier than that, he was looking at Spurs as an example, and he was saying they've got around 21 players that they, with no other commitments, that they play all the time. And when you do that, it becomes so much easier to go on these sort of winning runs and stuff, because everyone knows inherently what they're doing, what they're supposed to do, and it just builds into it. And I think he's looking, to replicate that same sort of thing, where he knows his best 11, and that'll only deviate because of fatigue or injury issues. But yeah, I think there'll be a lot of change, and especially a lot of outgoings in this window.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to change subject now. Finally, this is my finally point. And Ian, I'm going to come to you first on this one.
This could be the next hour.
It'll soon be clear why. Basically, over the weekend, me included, season ticket holders and members received an email with an offer to buy a main stand seat from last season, an old wooden main stand seat for £200 in a fancy box, complete with a book.
Sorry, it's an iconic presentation box.
Fuck that, it's a fancy box.
And it's not even a seat, it's just 2 pieces of wood.
It's pieces of wood.
You can't sit on it.
It's pieces of wood. It's pieces of wood for £200, and that was a discounted rate for us season ticket holders and members, because the normal price is £225. Now, funnily enough, this move out of the blue, with no previous indication that this was going to happen, as how can we put it nicely, polarised.
Can I just go to that straight away?
Go on.
This move was buried in the aftermath of giving Klopp a new contract. This is Tory politics burying of news. This is they've done it deliberately right after everyone's up because Klopp's got a new contract. Stick it out quietly. Send an email. Sorry.
It's fine. You will have every opportunity to rant in a second. I'm just doing a little bit of a preamble for those that haven't seen the furore about it. I think we could all say that it could have been handled better. This a little bit more background is that many fans who sat in the main stand for many years, we're talking decades here, contacted the club last season and said, we're obviously aware that you're building a new stand, you're going to knock all them seats out, you're going to put new ones in. I'd quite like my seat because I've sat there, my dad sat there, my granddad sat there, my auntie, my uncle, whoever, for 30, 40 years. Any chance? And it seemed to come back, well, no. And then there was the idea of, well, can I make a donation to charity and take my seat that way? Again, nothing really come back. And the key points as well about this seat thing before, and I think some people aren't quite getting this, is you aren't being given the opportunity to buy the seat you sat in. You can't pick the seat. You are just sent a seat out of the main stand for £200. Ian, your late father, you sat in his season ticket. You took over his season ticket in the main stand, sat in his seat, and you would have liked to have been given the opportunity to buy that seat, wouldn't you?
The majority of this show has been me calming down because I did City Talk live immediately before this. Walked into the studio, went right on air, started off quite calmly, and realised how furious I was by the time I crashed the news. I'll start with the same caveat. When my dad passed away, a lot of people said to me, don't say anything, just use the ticket. Just keep using the ticket. There's lads down that end of the stand who are 125 years old and they're still going every week. And I thought, no, do you know what? Every time I go into the ground, I'm sticking my ticket in the hole in the wall, and the hole in the wall's flashing amber instead of green. So they know it's not me. They know I'm not 65. I look pretty rough at the moment, but they know I don't look 65. I thought the last thing I want to do is... Cheers, Jay. Thank God this isn't telly. The last thing I wanted to do was lose... My dad came close to giving up his ticket the season before because his eyesight was failing, his health was failing. And he had a conversation with my mum, and the decision was, keep it, because Ian will have it. Whatever happens, if anything happens to you, Ian will have it, and that's what he wanted. So the last thing I wanted to do was lose my dad's ticket by using it fraudulently. So I rang Anfield and said, look, this is a situation. My dad's passed away, he wanted me to have his ticket. How do I go about changing it? Obviously, I didn't give him a name or the seat number until I found out that I could do it. But they were great. The ticket office were fantastic. It took them from January through till August to actually change it because they had a hell of a... In fairness, there's about 5 of them in there and they had a hell of a lot to do. So I'll give them that. But they changed it and they were really helpful. And every time I rang up, they were like, yeah, I do know. I've got it on the file. I can see it. The ticket office were brilliant. The lads and the girls who worked there, can't thank them enough. They were excellent. So as the season went on, I knew that the season was going to be my only season in my dad's seat. I knew that. He'd been going to match since the early 50s. He was born 35. He'd been going to match constantly since the early 50s. He'd done all the away games during the 60s. He'd done Rome. He'd done Paris. He'd done all the big European games up until the mid-80s. And he'd sat in that seat. And that seat may have been replaced at some point, but the back certainly hadn't. And the club are selling us on the idea that there are seats that have been there since 1906. Right, so if my dad's seats have been there since 1906, he'd been occupying that for a great deal of time from the early 50s onwards. He's seen everything from that seat. He's seen St Etienne. He's seen Borussia Dortmund. He hasn't. He's seen Borussia Mönchengladbach. I saw Dortmund from that seat. He's seen the derbies. He's seen the United games. He has seen some shite during the 50s. Some absolute garbage he saw. But he saw little. He saw Shankly arrive. He saw Shankly build a team. He saw the Paisley years. He saw everything from that seat. That's the key. It's that seat. And I've got a photo that I put on Twitter of the seat, because when we came to the last game of last season, I wanted that seat. And you could hear the splintering behind me, but there was a steward 10 feet away from me giving everybody daggers and then making this announcement: unauthorised removal of club property is theft and you will be arrested. And I thought, well, I'm not losing my season ticket for nicking a piece of wood. So I took a photo of it, took a photo of my view from that seat and thought, that's it, that's my memories, I'll go with that. And I went into town to do the pink, did the pink up the top of the town. I thought on the way home, I'll drive in and I'll have a look and see whether I can get anything. I thought, sod it, it's gone. And the next morning you saw the photos of the seats on the pitch and then the seats going into containers. You think, that's it, they're skipped. Okay, they're skipped. I'd have been happier if those seats were in a skip set fire to, because they're gone and the club has made no commercial decision with them. What they've done at the moment is, I can swear more than the can on Radio City.
Can't fill your boots.
What they've done is absolutely fucking crass. It's disgusting, it's disgraceful, and it misunderstands everything that there is about being a fan. It negates everything that he did in the wake of the ticket fiasco last year, because you think, after the ticket fiasco, you think, well, okay, we've walked out. And you're getting this on Twitter at the moment. Well, if you don't want the seat, don't buy the seat. I don't want a seat. I do not want
the seat.
Fucking seat. I want the seat. Yeah. I want that seat. I want the seat that was in row 6, seat 92. That is the seat I want. I don't want any other seat. I don't want to pay 200 quid. Some lad from Florida will have a seat for 200 quid somewhere. Sound great, he's got a souvenir of Anfield. He may never have been here, or he might be in Tasmania, he might be in Australia. Apologies to all the overseas listeners who feel like they want something from Anfield. What I want, and somebody else didn't get this, said, well, you got your memories of your dad? Yeah, this is a direct physical connection. I don't even want the seat. I don't want the bit you sit on. I had no desire to have the bit that you sit on, because that's cracked and that's been replaced and it's been cracked and it's been replaced. I wanted the back of that seat. The back of that seat is slightly chipped, slightly worn. It's worn from my dad sitting on it. It's chipped from the lad behind him putting his feet on the back of it. It's worn from decades of use. Somebody else on Twitter said, well, no, it wasn't. It was a rejoinder to the article saying, well, what about the woman who sat there before you, Dad? What if she wants it? What if she sat there longer than you? Right, well, if we can find the woman who sat there from 1895 to 1955 and she wants the seat, I'll have a conversation with her, and it'll be a fantastic conversation, and we'll televise it because it'll be bloody amazing. He was there and he's not alone. We're not alone in this. The lad next to me, it's his seat because it was his dad's seat. The lad in front of me, he's had that seat for 50 years. These are the seats that people have occupied doing something that they are intensely passionate about, doing something that they love. And what the club have done, have gone, take all them seats out, lob them in a box, lob them in a load of boxes, stick them in an iconic presentation box. Thank you, Ian A. Well done. Brilliant. Great talk. Who was there that didn't sit there in a meeting at some point and go, do you know what, lads? This is a really bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? Are you knobheads? Why can't you see this is a bad idea? The people who sat there want them. What are you going to do? You're going to sit them. Sorry, I'm speeding up again. You should have seen me crash the news. It was glorious. You're going to put them in a box. Seats 134, great. Which row was that? No, how many rows were in the main stand? 70, something like that? Right, there were 70 seat 92s. I don't want row 7. I don't want row 5. The lad who was in row 5 wants it. The lad who answered me on Twitter, who was in row 4, seat 92, I've been looking at the back of his head for the last 18 months and never spoke to him. He quite fancied having his seat as well, because he's watched it from there for years.
It seems to me that there could have been a smarter way to do this. I mean, people, I've seen a lot of comment. I mean, I spent a lot of my time, replying to some of these comments, as you may have seen.
Yeah,
Ian wrote a big piece on all this. It's on the website. It's very good, and it nails all the reasons why. I'm broadly in agreement with everything that Ian's just said. One of my things with it was, it seems to me, Jay, I'll bring you in on this, that the club could have consulted with fans somehow over this and try to find some middle ground. I mean, people are talking about, oh, well, we're miles behind Man United and you want them to make money. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
I'm sure they make 2.5 million.
2.5 million tops if they all sell. And they won't all sell because the
Not
people
all
who
of them
sat there who
will
want them don't want them like that.
And
They want their
They
seats.
weren't all in a state to sell.
Also, as well, it's worth pointing out that people are going, other clubs do this. Yeah, West Ham did it. And
50
they're
quid.
50 quid.
Yeah.
Ian's just said he'd like to imagine the meeting they were in and why no one stuck their hand up and said this is a bad idea. There's loads of Liverpool meetings that I'd
You've
quite
been
like
in
to,
these
no,
meetings?
no, there's loads of Liverpool meetings that I could imagine they've had.
Not
No one's,
these, but
and
similar.
no one at any point sat there and said, bad idea this, lads. I remember having a conversation with them, with somebody at the club not long after we'd had the walkout, and they were like, well, what if we we didn't we didn't charge 2 million extra and we only charged $1 million? I was like, really? That's really the best idea you could come up with? Really? Now, at all this time? Quite interesting you say about the £2 million, well, in around the £2 million, because that's how much they, call me a cynic, but that's how much they've lost on extra ticket revenue.
that. Yeah.
Call me a
Doesn't
cynic.
seem coincidental, does
Gareth's right, absolutely no, certainly no conversation with us. We'd had long conversations with Liverpool about tickets, the moving seats and stuff like that as part of the ticket working group. The ticket working group isn't working at the minute because Liverpool decided they didn't want to be our mates after everybody walked out. Again, quite coincidental, but it's this idea. It's massively in support of what Ian said, really, and it's the opposite of what the club will say your season ticket is, and it's the opposite of what people who disagree with you will say your season ticket is. But that season ticket is your seat. Liverpool say, well, it's not really your seat, we just sell it to you for a year. And other fans who want that seat will say the same thing. But then Liverpool do the opposite. Liverpool market it as if it's your seat. Liverpool give you your season ticket renewal. They don't send you a season ticket renewal for a seat somewhere else. They sell you that same seat. They keep giving you this idea. They sell this identity. This is your seat. You go to match with your mate. Your spec on the cop and things like that. They sell this in their museum about fans who had their own spec on the cop when it was all standing, and yet now they're happy to say it's something else. And it's the consumerist nature versus the supporter nature. And Liverpool have picked the consumer one for the sake of a bit of money. Now, my understanding as well, just to put some fact on this, aside from the money, there are about 6,000 season ticket holders in the main stand, I believe. Okay, so the 6,000, I think there's about 12,000 seats in there, something like that. Is that 10? How many seats are there?
I honestly,
About 12,000 the whole
Well,
stand.
so say there's 6,000 seats there, so not all of them would need to go to season ticket holders. Not all of them would want to buy them. Why not just ask them?
Yeah.
Why not just say, right, if you're a season ticket holder and you've given us £800 odd for the last couple of years and you've given us 600, 700 odd pound or 600 odd pound for the best bit of that, right, for every year you've had your season ticket, we're going to knock X amounts off, and it makes it a nice around 50 quid or something like that. They could have done all those things. They could have asked people. They could have said, do we really need to sell these? Now, I know through somebody else that some of these seats got offered to somebody else for a football club. Nothing to do with selling them to supporters. So they got offered to them in that way. They just chose not to take them. So clearly, at some point, they've had a meeting. This wasn't the plan all along. They've suddenly thought, there's a bit of money in this. People want them seats. There's a bit of money in it. Because clearly, even when they were taking them out of the stand, they didn't try and take them out. We've seen those pictures. They didn't try and take them out nice and neat. They didn't send a load of workies around with screwdrivers and doing them nice and neat. They just ripped them out.
Yeah.
So surely we could have had loads more, preserved them, and people could have paid a bit less.
Do you know the great contradiction is? They're selling something sentimental, and yet putting their hands up when people go, I am sentimental about this.
Yeah.
They're saying, you want it, don't you? You'll pay big dollar because you feel sentimental about it. You go, yeah, I do. We do. Ian does.
Yeah, I want my seat. Well, no, hang on. This is a trans. No.
Yeah, we'll apply no sentimentality. We'll make it a totally crude, unsentimental transaction.
do you want a piece of history? Yeah, I want a piece of my history.
Because it means something to me because I'm upset about it.
Well,
My
this is what I
first
don't
instinct was
get.
the main stand too. But yeah, go on, Gareth, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, sorry, that they sending a book out with this about the history of the main stand.
Booklet.
The history, or booklet, the history of the seat that someone somewhere will get is Ian's dad, is my mate's dad and his granddad and blah, 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 who all sat in the same seat in the main stand as well. But guess what? He took his seat and he's probably made up with that decision now. But one of them.
Man, if it ever happens in the cop, I'm taking man.
But what I don't get about this is that over the weekend as well, since Ian's piece went up, we're getting comments left, right and centre on every single form of social media, and over again with people, almost arguing black is white, that sort of thing. And they're basically going, their argument all the time back to me was, because it ended up being me arguing, was...
No surprise.
I kind of thought.
No, Robbo. I know what this is like, so I'm just going to...
But it was, every time it was like, yeah, but it's a business, but it's a business, but it's a business. And one lad was comparing it to Odeon. No, mate, you go the Odeon, right, and you watch a film and you take no part in watching that film. You watch a film, you drink your Coke, you eat your popcorn, and you go home. And then the next time, a different transient crowd walks into the same cinema, fills the same seat, watches the same film, eats the popcorn, blah, 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 goes out again. That doesn't happen at footy. You've got loyal supporters who go week in, week out, make sacrifices to do so, and generate that atmosphere that everyone said last season was boss. So you can't have it always. At some point, the club should go, these fans are great, and I want to say thanks to those fans. I want to consider those fans.
There was an opportunity for goodwill from the football club on this. And this is the other thing that again happens within our support at the moment, and we had this on ticket prices. You know, if you do think different than me or Ian or Gareth and stuff like that, sound. But accept that not everybody has to think like you either. Ian didn't write that piece to say every single Liverpool supporter should be outraged. It's the people who come back to you and say, you're wrong. Can't we just say, you know what, I can see your point. I can see why you're upset. I don't agree with it, but I can see why you're upset.
Yeah.
You know, why can't why is nobody inside the football club does that? Why does no one inside the club say, you know what? It's just, do we need to do this? We need to do this?
You know,
I like the lad who came back and argued that we were wrong, and then you said, "Have you read it?" No, I don't need to. Well, you do, because you're arguing with something.
Yeah, you haven't read the argument.
You don't know what you're arguing. You're arguing against.
I know what they'll be. No, you don't.
I know what he said. Oh, great. Okay. Well,
do you know Ian's family history?
Could have saved me a couple of hours that on Saturday afternoon. Come and write the stuff for me. It'll be sound. I've completely forgotten where I was going then.
We're a community in that they need to bear in mind that you have to keep giving. You can't bleed. You can't leech. What's a leech? You can't keep taking from that community and
without
not giving
something back.
And I know we went through all this when we talked about the ticket pricing, but they have to have somebody whose only job is on any commercial board is going, how are ordinary people going to react to this? Who invest their heart and soul in this? Just let's think before we take another pound off them. Just let's think.
And that is exactly where I was going to go. It's the goodwill argument. One of the lads who replied underneath the article pulled me up for the Alan Partridge bit where I went, I'm a retailer. I'm bloody good at selling things. I am. I've got 30 years in retail behind my name. I know how to sell shit to people. You don't do it like that. Rob's a businessman. There is no business on earth that exists without the goodwill of its customers. It's the first thing you need. If you lose the goodwill, your business is gone. And they're exploiting goodwill yet again.
We had that show about identity, Robbo, and actually the commercial aspect of the club was something we discussed, and we were all in agreement that the club actually need, to expand commercially if they want to compete on the pitch and stuff. And the point I made then is you can do these commercial projects, but you need to have intelligence when you do them. And this is another issue where everyone could have been a winner in the scenario if a little bit of intelligence was applied and not just looking at product, price, this is how much we can profit from it.
And that's the other offensive thing they describe it as, the product.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so if they had said to people, like season ticket holders who have been there for ages, we're thinking of selling seats. Would you like your particular seat? We can keep it for you, deliver it to you. And like you say, Jay, make a great point. You've had your season ticket for this many years. We're planning to retail them at 225, but you can have it at whatever price.
200.
So you'd get, not everyone would take that opportunity, but there would be people like Ian would have taken that opportunity. That makes Ian happy, right? Then you could do another thing where you auction some chairs, maybe 100 seats that you put up for auction, and all the proceeds go to Alder Hay or something like that. Mm-hmm. So then you're not only giving back to season ticket holders, you're now giving back directly to the community. And you'd have businesses who'd pay a lot of money, to get a chair, and that donation go to charity. Then you also, and this is another thing that maybe we sometimes forget because we have the the privilege of being actually in Liverpool and being able to go to the games all the time. And I think because I'm not, because I'm South African originally, I always have this in the back of my mind. There are people, in Nigeria or Malaysia or whatever, who love the club unconditionally, but will never have £2,000, to come and stay in England and visit the club. So make some available, to people who love the club, absolutely, but will never have that opportunity to go to Anfield, and that's still a shitload of money, but for them it may be more attainable than actually doing a trip. That way you're pleasing season ticket holders, you're pleasing the community, you're pleasing international fans who may never have another chance to experience Anfield in a way. But just a little bit of intelligence. I mean, how long did it take me to say that? That isn't even... it's not. We're not asking them to move mountains or anything like that. It's small little things that could have made such a huge difference.
It's an ounce of thought, and I'll quite happily come and run the commercial department for them. I don't mind. I'm easy. I'll do it as a sideline. I'll do it part time. I'll probably making better decisions than they're making at the moment.
It's astonishing. It's just a misreading of the mood. Melissa's right. It's intelligence. Yeah. We make these things, and it's not a mistake. No one's going to remember it forever and ever. But it just pisses people off. When Jurgen Klopp does these interviews, and I said this to over ticket, and it's things like this. I said to Liverpool, with a bit of goodwill, you'll get so much more back. Imagine Liverpool saying to you, Ian, we're going to sell you, do you want your seats? It's 50 quid, we've had to pay the removal cost, which they haven't because they were redoing that stand anyway, but, we're going to put it in a box, we're going to give you your exact seat, bit of sorting out, so it's 50 quid.
Yeah, don't worry about the box, lads, it's 50
you'd be like, absolutely brilliant. Well, Liverpool. As you were saying before about the goodwill of the ticket office, so all those other little things that other staff in other departments have done for you, that makes you think, you know what, you actually get this. Thanks a lot. I am going to give you that little bit louder at the ground. Maybe I will go and buy that present from the club shop for someone's present for the birthday next time around. Now you're just left with, get a fuck.
Yeah, and also, like, you're in a pub or you're on a podcast or you're in any situation where Liverpool Football Club and the running of is discussed, and you might go, well, you know what, I had a good experience of them though because they did X and Y. I mean, the other argument that I can't stand among when we reach somewhere like this where there is some criticism of something the club has done is you get people who come back and go, yeah, but other clubs do X. I'm not interested in what other clubs do. Liverpool, we want Liverpool to be special, to be different, to get it, to understand the supporter culture, to be able to look at those scenes around Dortmund, Man United, Villarreal and all that and go, our fans are special, our fans are different, we value the fans. So does Jurgen Klopp. That's what makes Anfield special. That's why we've won some of these games, because the atmosphere is absolutely unbelievable and you don't get that at every other ground. And so therefore we're going to be nice to our fans, not just, oh well, every baseball team in America that's done this, that's what they've done, so we'll do that. Think differently, because the culture here is differently. The culture among match-going fans is different. Liverpool as a city voted differently in the EU thing. They voted differently in the general election. There's a different vibe around Liverpool, and I get that people come here from all over the world, but a lot of the match-goers are from the city. So just treat them with a bit of dignity, and I just think it could have been done where everyone's happy. So the likes of yourself, Ian, you could have been offered the seat. You might say yeah or no. There's still going to be thousands of others that they can box up and sell off and make money out of, and it might not have been the same amount.
Going, do you know what, I'm not arsed.
I'm not bothered,
I've been sitting here for 10 years, it's only a piece of wood, I'm not that arsed.
People are different.
Yeah, and I've deliberately, as you're saying then, it's the news you pass on, I've deliberately caveated both things today with the fact that there is a positive. There are people within that club who do positive work and help the fans. I've experience of them. They were great. But this, no.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Final word there from Ian. We've gone long on this podcast, but I think you can probably work out the reasons why. We wanted to get things off our chest. I hope you've enjoyed it. That's the free Anfield Wrap for this week. If you enjoy this type of thing, please do consider a subscription to Tour Player. And more of this soon. Thanks to everyone who's been on the show, and thanks to Andy for producing. Cheers.